Welcome to another Tired Dad podcast. Must remember we're looking at the phone, not the laptop. I'm Nathan Ross, your host.
Hi, I'm Melissa.
Hi, welcome. And if you're new to us on Instagram, we've been doing podcasts now on YouTube for the last 6 months.
Something like
6 months, and we talk about anything and everything to do with relationships. And we talk about our own situations, don't we? We talk about our own marriage, we talk
that. We
about our
love
own.
ourselves like that. We just love talking about our own selves, don't we?
Do we?
We like to
You
talk about our own
real life.
situation to bring value to others.
Yeah. So if you're new watching on Instagram, now if you're wondering why I pointed up there, because that's where the Instagram phone is. So if you're new to us, welcome.
Welcome.
We hope you enjoyed today's session because we're going to talk about second chances.
Okay, because I don't know what he brings to the table.
You never know what the
Yeah.
topic is, dear. But we're going to talk about second chances. Now, the reason why we're going to talk about second chances is because I've been putting a lot on my Instagram other profile, which is my main profile, not my tired dad one, but my profile
Yeah.
about affairs.
Okay.
And there's lots of discussion going on about it's hard to forgive, it's hard to get the man to talk about stuff, this, that, and the other. A lot of the DMs that I'm getting is about like, should I forgive him? Should I give him a second chance? It's hard because of this, that, and the other.
Would you say you've had more DMs about the person doing the affair or the person who's had the affair done to them?
The person that's had the affair done to them. And
Okay.
it's really funny because someone said it's a pity the people that need to hear this aren't getting it. But if I'm looking at my insights,
Hmm.
men are watching,
Right.
men are viewing.
So would you say most of those were women then?
Most women that DM me about being cheated on.
Right. Men,
And
men at all? Any
I've had
men?
one or two men, yeah.
Yeah.
I had a great conversation with a guy. Well, not a great, but I had a conversation with a guy yesterday who wants to give his wife a second chance because she cheated, but she's not being responsive and all them sort of things. So we can't be judgmental.
Huh.
Okay, all we can do is talk about our own experience, as always.
We can't throw stones when you live in a glass house.
I just
No,
yeah, okay. So
you won't hurt.
it's going to be a lot of that today. I'm taking. You did this,
Well,
which I'm happy to be on the receiving end of,
all right
because
with it.
yeah, but also the people that are coming in our clinic, like the couples that we've spoken to,
Yeah.
they're very much along the line of like he's done this, but his ego is holding back from actually being honest what's gone on. So I think
Well, I
we
think they don't know that it's the ego holding
no,
them
no,
back
they
at
don't know.
first. They're
No.
just saying they're not taking accountability for their
Yeah, we're
actions.
taking responsibility. So what I do feel like is we need to talk about what we did.
Okay.
Because we've spoken about, and if you haven't watched the podcast, which is called "The Three Ways to Rebuild Your Marriage," we touched it on there, didn't we, a bit? But I think we need to talk about, as usual, the men, because
Hmm.
that's what we talk about. We're not going to talk about the women's side. We're going to talk about the men's side.
Hmm.
I'm going to talk about what I think men are not doing and what they need to do, and you need to talk about why I feel that women need the men to do this.
Okay.
Okay?
Why it's imperative for moving on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because again, a lot of the time, I'm saying to a lot of men and women, it's not black and white.
Never is.
There's a lot of grey areas when it comes to rebuilding after an affair, rebuilding not just after an affair, rebuilding after any trauma.
Yeah.
And
There's not
it doesn't
one.
have to be an affair. It
There's
could
not
just
one
be
healing route.
no, it could be your husband's got a porn addiction. It could be your husband's lying to you about money. It could be lots of things. But
Yeah.
to any type of trauma, I think we need to really start talking about how we did it, but also what's holding men back. And I feel like if women can understand what's holding the men back
Hmm.
from doing what they should be doing,
Yeah.
um, and also I want you to really talk about how women can act during this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Providing disclaimer that both parties actually want to resolve
Well, let's
this.
talk about let's rewind a bit. Let's
Okay.
rewind a bit. Okay, so I let's talk about us because I think it's important that we share our story for those people on Instagram that don't know and people that are tuning in. Um, I moved back into the marital home in February, end of Jan.
Why did you need to move back in now?
I had
Come
left.
on, say it how it
Okay,
is.
so I'd left the marital home up to just under a year ago, hadn't I?
And why was that?
Because I'd been having an affair.
Hmm.
So I'd been having an affair for 3 years.
And what made you leave the marital home? Because we've never actually talked about this. We've
Okay.
literally touched
Well,
upon
we've
it, but
talked about it.
not on here.
Okay, so okay, cool. You need to
Not for the
record a bit so
viewers.
it doesn't go all weird.
Mm.
Okay, so I'd left the marital home. 8 months ago. Previously, before that, I was having an affair, and then I chose to jump. And
You chose.
well, no, what
Let's
do you
just
mean?
say it how it
What do you
is.
mean?
You chose to leave the marital home, or was it a situation that
No, oh,
was
but
it an
literally, there
ultimatum that
was an
was given to
ultimatum that was given. So I thought you didn't choose me to
you?
leave. So one of us had to choose, and it wasn't
We
you.
need to just give
Okay.
context
Okay,
here.
so the context is I got given an ultimatum, and for guys that are going through affairs, you probably get given this ultimatum all the time where you're going through the affair. You need to leave the wife and blah blah blah. So in the end, I made the ultimatum and left. And then we were co-parenting, so to speak, for 8 months or so.
Mhm.
I had hit rock bottom because I realized that the grass isn't greener, but also I'd made the wrong decision. And also I didn't like who I had become. And I think that's the most important thing that men need to understand. For some people, they like people say, "Oh, I hadn't failed. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, and it worked." Okay, great. But how much percentage of that actually is a real life situation for some people? Because I truly believe when men are going through having affairs, you're stressed out, you're in turmoil, you're lying, you're cheating, you're being this person that you never thought you would become, and you're being the person that your wife never ever thought you were going to be as well. And a lot of men go, "Oh, my wife doesn't know." They know because you've disconnected.
And let's not forget the reason you get into the affair in the first place.
Hmm.
You're feeling like you're lacking in some area of your life, which means you're not happy, you're not fulfilled as a person.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it has nothing to do with the person that they were with.
No,
So if you are somebody that has been cheated on, what I will say is it is nothing to do with you.
no.
It's not because you weren't good enough, as
Yeah.
much as the person that's had the affair will say it's because you didn't do this, or it's because
Hmm.
you didn't do that, or because you don't understand me, or this other person gets me.
Yeah,
It's all bullshit.
yeah.
Okay. It's all bullshit. It's nothing to do with your partner. It
No.
is a personal issue, struggle,
Insecurity. Yeah,
insecurity, whatever you want to call
yeah.
it. I don't want to say it is a you problem, but it actually is.
It's a you problem.
But
Yeah.
for so many people who are on my side of it,
Hmm.
you blame
Yeah.
yourself.
And this
And the only reason I bring that up, sorry to interrupt, is because let's not forget, whether you think that the affair works out for you or not, why did you get into it in the first place? Why didn't you
yeah,
have the decency
yeah,
to leave your partner before seeking a new
yeah,
relationship?
yeah,
Something's gone wrong
yeah,
somewhere for
yeah.
you to think that that is okay.
However, and I will say this as well,
Yeah.
most of the time, the disconnection between the in the marriage couple
Mhm.
is happening because the man is getting connection elsewhere
Seeking
or
it. Yeah.
seeking connection elsewhere. That then allows the man to use excuses like,
You don't
we're not on the
understand me.
same
Yeah.
wavelength. You don't understand me.
Mhm.
This is
Because you're
why
not
we're
trying because
disconnected.
you're not trying to understand
Yeah. Well,
me.
what?
Yes.
Why would I? I don't want you to understand me because
Yeah.
that justifies
Yeah,
my actions
exactly.
then to go
You've chosen to
elsewhere.
pull away,
Yeah.
which creates distance,
Yeah.
creates a wall, and
Mhm.
then you utilize that distance and that wall to justify your
Yeah.
actions.
Yeah. And then also what happens then
It's
is,
nothing to do with you actually not, most of the time, being that unhappy in your relationship that you don't want to be with them. Because let's be honest, if you were, you'd leave.
yeah. Yeah.
Why have the affair in the first
You
place?
would just
Just
go
leave them.
if you were so unhappy,
Yeah.
yeah. But then people might go, "Oh, you've got kids together and all this sort of thing." But
I don't buy that.
no, and I also think from a man's point of view, some people go, "Oh, you stay because of the kids, and the woman's going to be like this and will stop me seeing the kids." And I get that to a certain point,
Mhm.
but does that mean that you're going to be unhappy and ruin people's lives, stuff like that? It's a very messy,
Yeah.
and again, a very grey area. But we're just going to talk about what we
Mhm.
are going to have been through, and I think one of the things that what men do in order to justify why they're doing what they're doing is they start creating disconnection. You're putting money strain on me.
Yeah.
You're taking from me. You're not meeting my needs. We're not thinking the same anymore.
And that so-called connection that you think
Yeah.
you have with this other person is all a fantasy.
Well, let's talk about it in a bit. Let's talk about that
Yeah.
later. I just think this we need to talk about what goes on between her because the other person is insignificant, really, isn't it? It's what's going on. It's what's
Yeah.
going on between the
But
married
what I'm
couple.
saying is, in your head, you're thinking that that distraction and what you're having with somebody else is real,
Well,
and it
yeah,
couldn't be, and it couldn't be any further from
no,
reality.
no. Let's deep down, men know it's not real.
Yeah, yeah,
So whether they think it's real or not, men who are having the affair deep down know it's not real.
yeah.
What they're doing is just using this
Hmm.
as ammo. Okay. And so what happens is then the man uses it as ammo to justify going to the special connection and all that rubbish that goes on. And let's be real, guys, unless if you want to rebuild after having trauma, an affair, lack of trust, or whatever, the question that we asked at the beginning was, should the woman give you a second chance? That all depends on how the man responds
Mm-hmm. 1,000,000%, yeah.
to how he comes back
Yeah.
and what he does.
Yeah.
Because I hear so many times, and I've had it many conversations and many DMs. He wants to work at it, and my question is to the woman, or let's say a man, what is the man, or what are you doing to show your wife you want to work at your marriage or relationship?
Yeah.
Because I could have said, babe, I love you, I want to come back to you, and you can go, yeah, 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 cool.
Mm-hmm.
And a month down the line, you could be thinking, what is he actually doing to work?
Yeah.
What's he actually doing to reconnect? What's he actually doing? I'll be like, well, I'm not doing anything. I just want to be with you.
Mm. But still doing all the same behaviors that you were
Yeah,
doing before.
yeah. And so my first thing is answering that question of should I give him a second chance? It would be as a if I suppose what you should be answering is would you back off a bit and allow the man to prove himself?
Well, I think there has to be a grace period where that happens anyway, because
Yeah.
actions speak louder than words. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. You
Mm-hmm.
can say all the right things in the world, but unless you action upon them,
Mm-hmm.
we had that conversation that we've spoken about in another podcast where we sat down and had a really raw, gritty conversation about taking accountability for all of the things that you had
Yeah.
previously denied or lied
Lied.
about
Yeah.
or not taken accountability for.
Yeah.
I needed every single thing out in the
Well, you had a
open.
list.
Yeah.
You had a list.
I had 3 years worth of a list.
And I laugh
Let's just
now.
say how it
We
is.
can laugh. However,
Yeah.
however, it
I'm not
wasn't.
I'm laughing through gritty teeth. Kicking him under the table. Yeah, it's so
I'll probably
funny.
get a slap after this. But no, but we laughed. But
Yeah.
it was probably one of the hardest conversations. And this is where ego needs to be dropped.
Mm.
Because as a
You had
man,
no balls left after that
I
conversation.
literally had no balls. But you know what? It was a learning curve for
Yeah,
me.
yeah. It
And
was humbling,
it
I
was
would say.
humbling
Yeah,
experience,
yeah,
but also for you, it was showing you that
yeah.
we were ready to.
Well, I needed to see the attempt at becoming a new version of yourself.
Yeah.
I I don't like to use the word hate, but I hated the person you had turned
Yeah. I
into.
hated who I was turning
I
into.
couldn't
Yeah.
understand where that person that I fell in love with had gone,
Hmm.
but I knew it was in there deep down
Yeah.
because as much as we battled during our separation and we battled leading up to it, because obviously I knew deep down what was going on,
Hmm.
I still had a lot of love for you.
Hmm.
And I still knew that deep down you were that person that
Yeah.
I fell in love with. And I just knew in my heart of hearts, if I could just see a glimmer of that man again, I
Hmm.
knew there was hope. And
Hmm.
in that conversation where I needed you to open up and confess and take full accountability for everything that you'd ever lied to me about or been dishonest about,
Yeah.
the moment you did that, I saw that glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
The man is in there somewhere.
Yeah.
We've got to prize it out of him.
Yeah.
Whatever mess he's got himself into mentally and physically, at that moment, I believe, is when I chose to say to myself, I want my marriage, I want my relationship, I love this man.
Yeah.
He's fucked up royally,
Hmm.
but I want to help him get out of this situation. And
Yeah.
I think that was the real turning
Yeah.
point for me.
But
That
and I think
conversation.
for you to get to that point and for a woman to get to that point, the man, and I will say it till the cows come home, has to drop his ego.
Yeah.
Because if you're with a man and you're saying, okay, I want to make it work, he's saying he wants to make it work, but then won't explore and navigate and talk about what had happened and what gone on,
Yeah.
and not answering the questions that you're throwing at him,
Yeah.
he's not got dropping the ego.
You didn't want to be having that conversation
Hell
any
no.
more than I wanted to be
Hell,
hearing it.
hell no.
Do you think I relished in writing that list of questions down
Yeah.
and having to like almost be shot in the face with every
Mhm.
single answer that you
And
gave
some
me?
truths hurt, and some truths,
Absolutely.
and
Well, it all hurt,
yeah, of course it did. Yeah, but
but I didn't want to be having that conversation with you any more than you
no,
wanted to be having it.
no.
But we knew it was
Yeah,
necessary.
yeah. So I really truly feel that the number one thing from if you want to answer the question, should I be giving him a second chance, is is the man because we're talking from the man making the
Mistake.
mistake. Has he or is he willing to drop his ego and be open and honest about the events, what happened, and every time? Because even now, let's say a year and however after, you still have little flashbacks or little things that go on, and I know I have to act in a certain way or answer you and all this sort of thing. Sometimes questions come out and all that sort of thing. Even now, the ego has to drop. It's not me going, why? It's been a year now. Why you keep asking and all this sort of thing. And as a man,
You can't do
nah,
that.
you can't. No. And so, from a man's point of view, he needs to drop his ego and be willing to have the hard, frank, open, and honest conversations with you, whether it's in a setting that we did where we sat down, or it might be over a week or so where you keep asking him questions and stuff like that. He's
We
got to be
chose to
willing.
do it in a neutral place, which I think was helpful
Yeah,
because in your own home, yeah, you are very comfortable and it can
flare up.
it can flare up, it can get angry,
Yeah,
you act in a certain way that you perhaps wouldn't behave in a public setting.
yeah,
We knew we had to keep voices down, we knew we couldn't be too emotional,
yeah.
so we
He
chose,
puts it down.
well,
You
let's be honest, it
didn't
could
throw anything across the
no,
room.
it could have gone one of two ways, couldn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
But
yeah.
I think leading up to it, we both
Yeah.
knew,
But let's be real, the pain was still there.
yeah,
It was apparent on our faces and your faces. And
yeah.
I knew what I was saying and sharing you was hurting you, but that conversation had to be done.
Mm.
So I think number one, should you be giving the person a second chance if the person is willing to let their ego go and be honest and real with you? That's number one.
Because let's be honest, the bottom of the line is you have lost all
Right.
opportunities to
Yeah.
blame shift.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're the
And
one that's made this terrible decision.
yeah.
You know, you've made potentially a commitment to somebody. You might not be married, you might be a partner, you might be living together, you might have
Mhm.
children, whatever your setup is. You've chosen to make this decision to betray someone.
Yeah.
So you now have lost that right
Yeah.
to blame shift anything to the other person. And the minute you do that, you're going to lose all credibility in their mind that you ever want to change or
Yeah.
move forward.
That leads on to, you just answered it, number two.
Mhm.
Should you give the person another chance? If they're constantly saying, I did it because of,
Mm.
and this is one of the things that I'm gonna write a blog on a bit later on, is as a man, if you're saying I did it because of, you're not taking ownership.
No.
Because of, I don't know, stress,
Mhm.
because of you won't give me sex, because of I didn't find you attractive anymore, because of you kept not caring about where money was going to come from and support, because of and because of. If you're doing that or your partner's doing that to you, he's not taking responsibility. And so, again, he's not admitting that he's at fault.
And he's not really sorry.
No,
I hate to say it. I hate to
it's
bring them
real
on
though, isn't
to
it?
bring the
Yeah,
truth, but
yeah.
he doesn't
Because there's
really,
nothing.
he's not really apologetic about it.
There is nothing to justify what I did. Let's be real.
I could have been the worst wife in the world, which I wasn't, but we just throw that out there.
To be fair, you wasn't.
No, I wasn't.
No, you wasn't.
I never
No,
have been.
no, no, no.
But yeah,
But let's just say you was. Let's just
yeah,
say you were. You were the best. Let's say you didn't cook for me, or I don't know. Let's say we didn't have sex, or let's say I don't know you
you
just
got
didn't
none of
care.
your needs
I
met.
got none of my needs met. Yeah,
Leave
that's still. Yeah,
leave me, and then
that's
do
still.
whatever
Well,
the heck
even
you,
even
yeah,
if they leave it,
yeah.
that does not justify then when you get caught or when you found out to then come back and go, it's because I did this and I went off and I had an affair, or I did this and broke trust because of, and then list
And there
it.
were times during our separation where you had regret
Yeah.
and you were kind of expressing your feelings toward me,
Hmm.
but also in the interim period, still saying, well, I feel this way about you, but I did it still because of this.
Yeah.
Or so at that
Yeah.
point, I knew that you were
Yeah.
still not
This was
ready to,
before we made the
yeah,
decision to get back
no,
together. Yeah.
you know, you were still not on the road of taking accountability
Yeah.
or any kind of full
Responsible.
acceptance of the situation.
Yeah. So
Without that,
another flag, that's a red flag.
yeah.
Okay, that's another red flag. Should I be giving a guy a second chance? Well, if he's still saying I did it because of, you made me feel like this, you did this
Because it's
because
very
of.
easily to get into an emotionally manipulative situation
Mm.
because again, men like to have their cake and eat it sometimes. I'm not speaking for all men, but you
Mhm.
like your little garlic bread on the side and you like your main course at home.
Not garlic bread.
Um,
Don't give garlic bread a bad name.
I know,
We love garlic
I know
bread.
that's very true.
Yeah,
Mac and cheese. We don't like
exactly.
mac and
Oh,
cheese.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, it can become very emotionally manipulative very quickly. And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is you trying to still have a little bit of control over the person that you've left. You're not wanting them to move on because it suits you emotionally,
Yeah.
because you don't want to see your wife or your girlfriend get a new partner. So I'm going to keep them hanging a little bit, and I'm going to
Mm.
let them know that I still do love them,
Yeah.
but I'm still going to go back and carry on doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That you've got to cut out as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Of
That
course.
isn't fair.
No.
And that can be very, very damaging.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, you are ultimately going to destroy your chance of of somebody
Rekindling.
forgiving you
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
rekindling your
Yeah.
relationship, because at some point the woman, and again speaking from the woman's point of view, she's gonna tire of that. There's only
Hmm.
so many times you can keep playing the field, doing whatever you're doing, and then going back and saying, yeah, but I love you, you're my wife,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
always been you.
Yeah.
I'm not, this is just a game, this is just this is nothing.
But that's a different thing though, isn't it? Doing that is totally different to then.
But what I'm saying is, if men are doing that,
Yeah.
and they might think, oh, I'm just going to keep her there while I'm
Mm.
just,
No, yeah, true.
even
Yeah.
if you're in the interim period of you're not really sure if you've made the right decision,
Mm.
you can't emotionally manipulate the
No, no.
situation. You've got to be steadfast in
In what you
what
the
you
commitment
want,
you've made.
and
Yeah.
make a decision. Yeah, make
Yeah.
your bed, lie in it,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because that's
Well,
not
they
fair.
did, and it was the wrong bed.
Yeah, it was it was like the Goldilocks. That was too hard, too soft.
Yeah, exactly.
And the
Yeah,
one at home was just right.
exactly. So number one, drop the ego. Okay, that's a sign. Should I give the man a second chance if he's dropped the ego? Yes.
Mhm.
Number two, if he's blaming you for his actions, should I give him a second chance? No. Okay, if he's blaming you or he's putting, but I did it because of, and I did it because of, then that's really a red flag to actually say, you know what, you're not actually taking responsibility or accountability for your own actions. Until you do that, you know what, this isn't going to be rebuilt. So that's number two. And number three, should I be giving the guy the second chance? I think, and this is a hard one to understand, but are you mentally disconnected or are you emotionally disconnected? And what I mean by that is sometimes women might say they're done
Hmm.
mentally,
Hmm.
but emotionally they're not.
Okay.
So what happens is then the man, because let's be real, we were still emotionally connected.
Hmm.
Okay. Mentally, you were angry, you had hurt in your head. I think you started to become, I'm done with this guy
Mm.
and all that, but emotionally you hadn't. And I
Every time
think,
we walked in the house, I said to you, like, I would
mm,
have like my heart palpitations every
yeah,
time you
yeah,
come in the
yeah,
house, because I
yeah.
was just, and I was getting to a point where I was like, I can't keep putting myself through this.
Yeah. So there are two different types of disconnect. There's mentally, you might be disconnected from the situation. You might be angry, you might be painful, you might be hurt,
Yeah.
but emotionally, you're still connected to your partner who's hurt you and he's broken trust. And I think if you've got that,
Mm.
then you can try and build on that. But
Yeah.
the guy, again, and ladies, if it's you that's been hurt and the man's done wrong, I will say this: your man has to learn how to emotionally connect with you again. Okay, that is so, so important.
How did that happen? How do you
It
how did
takes
that happen?
time.
Yeah.
It takes time. And it's been again, and guys, if you're watching this, well, you will be watching this, and you want my biggest advice for you, it would be this: learn about love languages. Okay, learn about love languages. What your wife's love language is. Learn about that. Okay, I hate massaging my wife, but I know she likes it. Okay. She likes it, and I don't even mean in a sexual way. She just likes the massage.
Sorry. I've
Even
got
you've
I've
got
got
water, and he's still.
I've got hay fever related cough. I'm sorry.
um. So you got to learn about your wife's love languages. Number two, you need to go and get therapy. As a man, you need to. I went and got therapy, and I've spoken to other guys, and we help and counsel other guys that come to our clinic. We do it online. We do it at our clinic down in our office. We coach and counsel marriages, and it's always we focus on the man first. Okay, the pain of the woman comes later. We can work through that because they're emotionally still connected. But the man you need to go for therapy. You need to be honest and raw and understand what's your triggers, what's your insecurities. Because let's be real, you've done it to get ego fed, to build your insecurities up. And let's be real, you've tried to play both sides of the fence and it hasn't worked. That's why you're looking to rebuild again, because you realize the grass isn't greener. You've just been watering the wrong grass. And so you've really got to understand that if you're still emotionally connected from as the woman, you've got a chance to rebuild. But that comes with some rules. And what I mean by rules is don't be walked over. Because it would have been quite easy because we were emotionally connected, still walk over you, still take the piss, and then that emotional connection would have got harder, and you would have got hard-hearted.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a bit of a weird word, hard-hearted.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it would just been cause resentment and all that. So you've got to understand: are you mentally connected or disconnected, or are you emotionally disconnected? Because if you're emotionally disconnected, it's done,
Well,
it's finished.
well, I think at the point where you make that decision to rebuild, that's the starting point. And if you're not going to stay true to your word, you're wasting both your time,
Mm,
both of your times, aren't you?
yeah,
When it comes to the woman accepting, you've got to make the decision that you do want to forgive, and it's a daily thing.
yep.
You don't just forgive once and that's it.
Like we say about choosing to love someone, it's a daily action.
Yeah, you absolutely choose to forgive somebody, and again, like, we're all flawed human beings, so just because I've chosen to forgive you about this situation doesn't mean that you don't occasionally still piss me off about life, or just
Or things that happen. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like, come on, like,
yeah,
it's relationships. We're not going to get on 100% of the time,
yeah.
we have our
And there's
little.
also little things that trigger you
Yeah,
that you bring up, or you
yeah,
go and I go, I understand,
yeah,
and stuff like that. And as a man, you got to navigate through that.
yeah.
And it is navigating because it's all new to both of you. So you are having to sit down and have conversations and go like, what is it that's triggering you? Or you sometimes wake up in the morning and I know you've had a dream or
Mm.
something, and I'm like,
You've got to,
okay,
I think patience is a big
yeah,
thing
yeah,
from the man's side. I think
yeah,
you've got to be extremely patient, because
mhm,
it is not a short journey. Forgiveness and rebuilding trust, it's a marathon, it's not a
mm,
sprint.
yeah,
And the patience that I know that you have to have sometimes, because bear in mind, leading up to this, I was the one that had to have patience in
mhm,
sort of,
yeah,
waiting for you to
yeah.
figure your shit out, I suppose. And
Also, you had to have patience when I was when this was rebuilding,
yeah.
because I had to go. I went for therapy.
Mm.
I went for
And
got
also
help.
giving you a chance to prove yourself,
Yeah, yeah,
giving, and that only happens over time.
mm,
Like you said, all I can do is show you that now my word is my word,
mm,
and I'm not going to be able to do that overnight,
mm,
and I'm not going to be able to do it just with my words.
mm,
I need to show you. So every single time there's an opportunity for me to stay true to what I've said to you, for you to know that my word is the truth.
yeah,
That happens over a period of time, and I'm happy to report that since you gave me that word,
hmm,
you have stayed true to that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
we're only at that point now, because we're a little over a year into this.
yeah,
You have stayed true to every single promise that you've kept, that you've said to me
yeah.
about, you will trust my word again, but you've just got to give it time.
And I think
And it's
even
not easy, because
no,
you can be impatient, and
yeah,
it's
and
it's
you,
it's a horrible feeling to feel like you can't trust your partner, the
mm,
person that you should have more trust in than anyone in the world.
yeah,
And for that to be entirely broken,
yeah,
and for you to never think that you're going to potentially be able to trust anyone again, because
mm,
the person that you should have trusted the most has let you
there you
down,
go, yeah, yeah,
is such a difficult thing to navigate. But
yeah,
you've both in different ways got to have patience with
mm,
it. It's not
definitely,
going to happen
no,
overnight.
no,
And I think,
yeah, and I think from a man's point of view, guys, if you are honest about you wanting to rebuild and you realize that you've made the worst mistake ever and that you want to rebuild your marriage or your relationship, be prepared for the long run.
yeah.
Okay. Be prepared to put the effort in, learn about your wife's love languages, put your time in, be prepared to go two steps back. Sometimes be prepared for your wife to have a sudden go at you because she's angry with you because she's had a thought or something come into her head and all that.
Well, I didn't anticipate. I don't think you anticipate the things that are going to trouble
Trigger
you
you, yeah.
as you go on this journey.
Yeah.
Things that you think are going to be quite obvious
Yeah.
triggers
Yeah.
sometimes aren't, and then things that come completely out of the blue smack you in the face, and there
Yeah.
you are, you're back into it
Yeah.
again.
And it's the simple things, isn't it? It's the
Yeah,
little things that,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
For me, it might be driving in a particular area or going to a certain place, or
Hmm.
it might, yeah, but it's sometimes not the obvious things. I think
No,
that's what you've got to be aware of as
no.
well when you're navigating this sort of rebuilding trust situation, is that you might be able to think from the man's point of view that you can anticipate where the triggers are. Be prepared that you're not
They come
always
out.
gonna, yeah.
I'll wake up and I'll know she's had a bad dream.
Well,
Or
it's not even
no,
just
no,
dreams.
no,
It
no.
could
But I'm
be,
just saying, like,
yeah.
or you like we might be in a like we went to London, and there might be something in London, and you'd be like, and you're like, I'm just working through it. I'm like, okay, cool. Okay. So there's lots of things that can trigger. So as a man, you've got to have patience, but also you got to remember it's going to be a long haul. Now, I think another podcast will be like 5 practical ways you can build trust, like your phone,
Mm.
and things like, and I like,
Well, perhaps that's the one we need to do next. I
yeah,
think leading off of this, practical sort of tips and
solutions.
advice.
Yeah,
How can I put this into place? Right,
yeah.
okay. I do want to rebuild my relationship. I do want to forgive.
Hmm.
How do I do it?
Yeah, yeah. So if you're asking your question, can I give this person a second chance? There are three things that you need to look at. Number one, is he willing? Is the man, your husband, your boyfriend, willing to drop the ego and be raw and honest with the situation, what they've done, how they've done it, where they've been, why they did it? That's number one. Number two, are they willing to take ownership and accountability and say to themselves, actually, you know what? It wasn't because of you or because of it was actually me and my insecurities.
Mhm.
Are they willing to go and get therapy and get help and support? The amount of men and women that we've spoken to over the last few weeks that we counsel and talk, and it's amazing that once you actually unravel the trauma that men go through, it becomes a lot easier. And then number three, ask yourself, are you mentally disconnected or are you just emotionally disconnected? Because one is different to the other. And if you're emotionally connected, then it's going to be a lot harder to rebuild than just if you are mentally disconnected. And I'm going to leave it on this. Is it worth rebuilding? Yeah, definitely. Would you agree?
No, I'm joking. We are
I
a
think we are.
better version of
Yeah,
us than we've ever been.
yeah,
And that's crazy to say that
yeah.
we had to go through all this
I'm not saying it's easy.
madness,
Yeah, it's not easy.
but I feel like we're like rebirthed as
I just think
as a couple.
it's just brought us. Yeah, I just feel like it's brought us as a couple closer. I feel like it's brought us more intimate. I feel like we understand each other more. But also it's that I know I was this is just from my faith, like I feel like I've become more of a servant heart to you.
Hmm.
Like, okay, I don't like massaging, I'm not the best and I don't always do it. But like
You try.
I try. But I've realized that what my calling is more for as a husband.
Mhm.
Um, and I think when you get to that point as a man that you realize that you're here to serve your family, you're here to serve, and not in a simp, weak man point of view, because I'm tired of this whole masculinity thing of men going, "Oh, I'm here to provide, protect." I'm like, yeah, yeah, we are, and you can do that while serving. And so you really got to understand that once you are able to rebuild your relationship and are able to build your marriage and are able to build and become the person that you and your wife want you to be,
It's
it's
a
a
nice,
powerful,
it's a
nice
nice
feeling, isn't
feeling.
it? It's a nice
It's a
feeling.
nice feeling for you to be really proud of the man that you are, and
Mm,
to know that you're a good husband, a
yeah,
good father, and you're present. And
yeah.
we spend more time together now than we've
Oh,
ever
ever.
spent
Yeah.
together.
And
Like,
that's not down to trust. Again, you might go, you only do that 'cause you don't trust where he goes, stuff like
it's not that.
I go off and still do my thing and
Yeah.
all that sort of thing. But when we want to spend time together, because I realized that again, I was holding my family back because I was going off where and doing other stupid things when really family is what a man needs and has. And once and this is a warning to the men. If you're going through an affair or if you're having an affair, you will regret losing your family. You will regret losing your family. Guys, thank you for watching. If you have any questions or any comments, please drop them. Please like, subscribe, and share, because as always, that helps the algorithm. Guys on Instagram, if you want to put any DMs or tell me what you thought about your first live with us. And apart from that, until next time, we'll see you soon.
Bye bye.